Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts.
I'm Steve. Galvan.
Alright, so it's been a while since we've last recorded. How have the two of you been?
I've been pretty good. A lot of things have occurred as of lately, but yeah, everything seems to be going smooth. How about you guys?
A few days ago, or maybe a week at this point, I don't remember. My dad was outside and he was gonna move a car, or one of our cars, and he opened the door, and he got in right. But like you feel like when you get into a car, but you leave your leg outside for a little bit. That's what he did, and then this little black Chihuahua just started scratching his leg to get up into the car with him. And then he picked it up and he brought it home. So for the last few days, we've just been trying to get Rambo, our current dog, used to the new dog. And today we made a lot of progress because Rambo accidentally weaved through my brother's legs and got into the room with the other dog. And we started panicking because we were expecting him to go ballistic like always, but he didn't make a single noise this time, and he was just sniffing the other dog. And then they started playing with each other, which was nice. It was really cute. But besides that, yesterday I started playing the Lara Croft games, Tomb Raider. And it's a lot of fun so far. What about you, Jack?
What have I been up to? Nothing really. I've just been kind of learning more about what to do to improve the podcast when it comes to stuff like thumbnails, learning what to do for TikTok and YouTube Shorts to help expand the brand. I've been learning about different programs to make better thumbnails in and stuff, so I've been testing it out with certain things, but other than that, just been doing fine and excited for today's episode. Dom,
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, real quickly, Dom, before we get into it, do you want to talk about your recent purchase?
Oh, yes. For those who don't know, and it's been an album, it's been a bit of my fault. I'm having to constantly postpone the podcast until Tuesday, as of this recording. Not too long ago, I was able to pass my DMV written test after studying for 3 days. And so on that same day, I've decided to... Actually, beforehand, I decided to go ahead to make the purchase of a vehicle. And specifically, it's a 1994 Toyota Celica ST. It's an automatic. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a better price for it. I purchased it for $3,500. But that's not the final price point, of course. There's a little bit of repairs need to be done. But I can finally and proudly say I finally have my own little car, so I could get around town quicker. After what happened of the events of that one time I almost got stabbed. So, but yeah. However, this does come with a lot of responsibilities. This is my first time ever taking care, and having to constantly watch out for any little problems that might have occurred, so that I could take it into account of and repair later on. But yeah, this is pretty crazy, having a huge, I guess, stepping stone for mode of transportation, because normally this whole time I never really take the bus or take those electric scooters anywhere. I always walk it. So now having a car, I can drive anywhere I need to be, pick up, drop off things in a quicker and easier fashion.
I have a question.
What's up?
How did you come across the car?
It was through a Facebook marketplace. Through the Facebook market. Yes. My parents and I were thinking of going to a dealership, However, we couldn't find the exact model I wanted because I wanted specifically the model 94 ST Celica because of I guess it's past history with its reliability. This model specifically from 94 to 99 Celicas or like super reliable. They're super sturdy and they're really easy to fix up. So I decided to go for the one I wanted. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was located by a private owner where is it? It was in East LA. And the guy was super like friendly and stuff like that. He like the original price was $5,000, and we were able to negotiate the price down to $3,500. And that's I would assume, I like to assume that's a pretty good price point. I'm not sure if people could bring the price any further down than that, but yeah, that was the purchase. I still have like a list of things to do for the time being, like to like clean up the windows because I think they're tinted, and I'm not sure if I want to keep the tints on because I think depending on like the percentage or the opacity of the tint itself, it might be illegal. So I'm gonna have to check up on that stuff just so I don't get pulled over. But yeah, I'm gonna be driving around for a bit for the time being. I do apologize for any future episodes if they are postponed, just like this one has been, because I might be having to constantly go to the repair shop or repairing the car on my own just so I can get it back on the road in case of any failures or any potential hazards that might be happening along the future. So my apologies in advance. But yeah, this is a pretty big step for me. But yeah, that's been pretty much that. Oh, also in terms of purchases, I've also I'm not sure if I already stated before on the podcast, but I was meant to create a 3D printed figure of one of Jack's favorite characters. I'm not sure if it was by request or I asked him to do if he wanted me to do it. I made it. I'm not sure if he wants it. Jack, do you want it? After the pictures and videos I have sent?
That is a topic for discussion afterwards.
I can respect that. Yeah. Have you guys driven vehicles or given the thought about owning vehicles at all?
That's interesting you bring that up because I was just about to ask Jack a question similar to that. I've driven all of our cars. We have a 2021 Honda Civic RS. No. Which one is it? It's the SUV, right? And then we have a Ford Escape from like 2018, and then we have this random little black Nissan from the year 2008 or something. It's very old. I've driven all of them, but in terms of like what car I would like to buy, I really want, like, this has been my dream for a long time, to own a Volkswagen Golf GTI.
Nice.
What about you, Joseph? What car would you like to have, realistically speaking?
I actually haven't really put much thought into this because at the same time I don't really know when it comes to driving. Like, to answer both your questions, I know obviously I will have to drive, especially for emergency situations, like I don't want to be stuck in a situation where, someone needs to be driven to the hospital and I'm their only hope and I don't know how to drive. Obviously I never want to be stuck in that type of situation. And I know people would be like, oh, just call an ambulance, but people forget how much ambulances cost here in America. But, like, I don't know. My main thing of, like, when it comes to not wanting to drive is just that, like, I hate the fact that when it comes to driving, and I know it can be applied to everything else in life, but when it comes to driving specifically, I hate the fact that you can be as good of a driver as you are, as good of as skilled of a driver as you are, you can have no accidents for all these years, but at the same time, your safety and overall life is placed into the hands of the other people on the road, Like
That's the
more,
one thing that's always kept me away from driving.
yeah, especially when it comes to like, drunk drivers and stuff. It's like you can be driving completely safe, but because one idiot and their stupid decision, you could lose your life in the matter of a second because they're the dummies that decided to drink and drive, and like you're the one that's completely safe. You're the one that's abiding by all the rules, but because of this one dummy, you can lose it all. And I just hate the fact that that's what driving is, that your life, you can do I mean, it applies to life as a whole, but when it comes to driving, it's like you can do everything right, and yet it can all just not even matter when it comes down to certain situations. Like I mean, come on, look at that one recent case of that lady that drove into that intersection, and she survived, but yet all those other people died.
Dude, what was she thinking? Like, how could you be driving at that issue? How fast was she driving? Like 90 or like 86?
Yeah.
How could you do that and then see an intersection full of cars and not even bother to slow down? Like, did she think that she was gonna magically just avoid everything?
Well, from reports that I read, she was trying to crash, but like many people were saying, as harsh as it sounds, it's like if you're gonna do it, why put the lives of others in danger? Like if you are actively trying to crash and stuff, why do it in a section where all these people are? I mean, dude, a pregnant lady and her other baby that was already born were killed in that accident. And all for what? Because of, again, someone else's stupid decision. That's the one thing I just kind of hate about driving, is that, like I said, you can do everything right, and yet, just one person can take that all away. And not only that, but it's like, how would you put it, I forgot what I was going to say, but, that's kind of just my line of thinking, but that's kind of the whole thing about driving. Is I know I have to do it for emergency situations, but I really don't want to drive because of other people. And as far as when I do want to drive, what car would I want? I mean, I've never really thought about it too much. I'd just probably want something that I don't know, maybe just, I've never really thought about the car. Maybe just something simple like I actually don't know much about cars and brands. See, that's how little I've thought about it. I don't know, just give me one of those simple 4-door vehicles, Something simple. I don't need something big or too small. Hell, don't give me something too small. Those are basically death traps when you get into a car crash.
Like a Honda Civic or something like that, I guess. Anyways, let's get into our main topic of today.
Yeah. So, technically it was all in one day. We watched 2 movies. Now, we plan to do 2 separate reviews, but as we put more thought into it, there's one movie that we want to review more than the other, and technically there's a lot more to say about the other. So, we watched Prey for the first time with our group of friends, and then we watched Parasite again, but Dom got to see it for the first time. So, real quickly, what were your guys' thoughts on the movie Prey?
I want Dominic to go first because my thoughts are a bit harsh, I guess.
I think first time seeing Prey, I liked it. It was a little bit interesting. The sort of I mean, my sort of thoughts that were kind of how would you say it? I always kept talking about the problem with continuity, but aside from that, the movie itself, it flowed nicely. I like the idea of the main character having the dog, having beside her. How would you say it? I think it was a little bit odd having like the languages split between English and what was it, Comanche, or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of weird. But I mean, I would assume they only done it just so for the sake of like the audience, just so that they can understand without having to read subtitles constantly. But I kind of liked the idea of her like I don't want to say like girl boss it, but practically, yeah, it was practically, her, I guess, going against the norms in terms of, how would you say, men being dominating and stuff like that. But aside from all that stuff, I think the acting was very nice. The acting was pretty superb, I like to say. The Predator, in this case, was also pretty cool. Although, I just can't, like, sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to understand that how a Predator gets outsmarted by a regular human. Especially just one human, considering they have such advanced technology that they still manage to lose. But, aside from that, I think it was a pretty good movie. It wasn't the best. I wouldn't rate it not even like an 8, maybe not even a 9 out of 10, maybe close to an 8 out of 10. But it felt like it went through too quickly. We didn't get too much of a backstory based off the characters. Only a little bit was noted down, but not too much of it. But yeah, nothing too much praise I would give to this movie, in my opinion.
If you had to give it a rating, what would you rate it?
I want to give it a 7 out of 10. But, I mean, it was I enjoyed it, not too much, but I want to give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. It ain't the best. It was good, but it ain't the best.
Interesting. As far as my own thoughts, how would I put it, man? I mean, I really enjoyed a lot of the action in this movie. I enjoyed a ton of, the visuals in it. A lot of the CGI at some points were like really well put together, But I mean, I don't know. I didn't really go into it with expectations. I thought it was pretty good for what it was. Probably similar to Dom, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 as well, or maybe even bump it up a bit by 7.5. But actually no, I'll give it a solid. I'll give it a 7.5. It was pretty good. I really enjoyed a lot of the visuals to it. One thing I will say, I think the plot did progress pretty well. Like, it was paced pretty well. Like, we moved from one scenario to the next pretty quickly, which will be another praise I'll give to the next movie. But yeah, I'll give it a 7.5. What about you, Gio?
Interesting. To be honest, I'd give it like a 5. Because, like, the 5 is literally just for the action scenes, and that's basically it. The story was whack. I don't know, it just wasn't interesting to me. The things I did like about the movie, or like I just said, were the action bits. The fights were well choreographed, and I don't know, just like we saw a different version of the Predator this time. And what I liked about it was, I don't know, because when we talked to our friend about it, he seems to know more about the Predators and their how they function as their own society. But what I liked about it, like from my perspective, is how they decided to kind of like downgrade his technology so it could be more primitive. So like it fits the theme a bit better, because you have like the Native Americans, right, and they have bow and arrows and so on and such, and then instead of having like little missiles, he has 3 arrows that kind of go to their target, and I thought that was kind of like a neat detail. And like the shield and the spear was pretty cool. I really liked the VFX of the Predator. There's a way, like the whole camouflage, and then when it went from camouflage to not camouflaged, how there was kind of like a red, was it? I guess, for lack of a better word, crust. It kind of just like went throughout his body before actually revealing everything. That was really cool. The CGI for the wolf chasing the bunny was really well done. I think it was the best in the movie. The bear was kind of wonky. The deers were wonky. the spaceship in the sky that we saw in the beginning, that was really well done too. As for the story, I just felt it's a very simple story. There's Native Americans and there's a predator who's trying to find the strongest predator on Earth. So he goes around killing all the predators that he sees until, I don't know, he's like this. He fights a bear and literally destroys it with a punch. One punch, like a bear. Like, a bear is like what, 600, 700 pounds, and he destroyed it with one punch. But then towards the end, he kind of like used all of his brain capacity, and he was left down to a single brain cell, and he gets defeated by the main character. I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't like an actual fight. It was just more like, all right, we have to wrap up the movie. Everything goes perfect for the protagonist, and then the predator lands in the perfect spot for it to shoot itself in the head, even though it should be familiar with the technology, and it should be aware that he's not aiming at the protagonist because he doesn't see the thing. I don't know. It just felt like he suddenly got stupid. Like, he devolved mentally throughout the movie, and at the end he was just dumb enough for the protagonist to defeat. I don't know. I didn't like that. Well, that's everything I have to say about it.
I can get where that's coming from because it was very weird that or well, it's not weird, but like it was just that like everything at the end kind of had to it had to be, how would you say it? Like everything had to be perfectly set up in order to get to the point that we got to, you know. But I don't know. Like I said, it was pretty decent. I liked a lot of the shots for the most part. But let's get into the main movie topic of today, and that is the movie Parasite. Now, the Parasite was a Korean film, correct? That came out in 2019, I believe. And it won a lot of awards from what I remember. It got a lot of critical acclaim, you know. Or it is critically acclaimed, sorry, that's the correct way to put it. And the whole plot of the movie essentially is we meet this family of four. They're very poor in Korea, you know. They live like, their apartment is like basically underground, and they live in like this slum area. And the son of the family, he has a friend who tutors a girl in a rich family, but he's going away to the U.S., I believe, to like study abroad. I think it was like the reasoning. And so he told the friend, hey, I don't want anyone else doing this job because that guy was interested in the girl. You go interview for the job. I'll recommend you, and hopefully they hire you. And so he goes and he gets hired. And that's when they come up with this scheme to slowly but surely get each and every single one of them hired under this family. So he comes up with a plan to get his sister to be the art like therapist in a sense to the younger boy of that rich family. And then they plot against the driver of the family. They get him fired, and then they get the dad in, and then they get the maid fired and get the mom put in. And the entire time the family doesn't know that they all know each other. It's just all under, oh, my friend knows this guy who had a brother, you know, that was a driver. I know my friend knew a girl who was got into like a good art school and can get your son, stuff like that, you know. And that's the whole plot, is they get each other in there. And then the big whole plot twist is that they discover through the previous housemaid that her husband was living in an underground bunker below the rich person's house that no one knew about. And she had been feeding him this entire time. But then the other members of the family end up falling and revealing themselves. And that's when that housemaid finds out that they're all related and they all schemed to get these jobs. And so it becomes this whole thing of who's going to snitch out who and stuff. And then the family gets home. What happens? Oh, the poor family locks the old housemaid and her husband down below, and at this point, I think the housemaid had been kicked down the stairs, so she's got a concussion and she ends up dying. And then they sneak out afterwards. They find a way to escape while the mom stays there because of course she's the housemaid. And they get home to find their home flooded. But then they get called in because they want to throw a party for the younger kid of the rich family, the little boy. And it's at this party where the son of the poor family, he wants to take him this rock that his friend gave him because he wants to give, hopefully, that the guy down in the cellar, I guess, like, what was it, hope, and like a gift that would hopefully bring them wealth and prosperity like it did to them. But it's upon that he's attacked by the guy as soon as he gets down there. And then the guy goes up to the top, kills the daughter of the poor family. And then how did I forget how that guy dies. But then the whole theme throughout this is as we'll get into, the rich guy and the dad of the poor family kind of have like this thing where he's always like, oh, he comes close to stepping over the line, but he doesn't. And then also there was this whole thing of where he talked about like the smell of poor people. And as he's getting the keys, because it triggered his son's trauma attack, because the son has seen this old guy before. As he goes to get the keys to take his son to the hospital, he like pulls the finger up to his nose to like, because it smells bad, because it's a guy slowly dying and stuff. It triggers the poor dad because he's like, here he goes again trying to say that we poor people smell or like have a smell to us. And so he grabs a knife and kills the rich guy and then runs off while the son was carried out by the daughter of the rich family because he was bleeding out. And the mother is like leaving as well because their daughter dead. The husband just killed someone. And the ending kind of is like, it's left up for interpretation as the son wakes up from a coma basically, and him and the mom walk off with probation for the charges that they got, which was like what was it again? It was forgery, and I forget what the other stuff was, but they only walk out with probation. And then like you find out that the dad went back to the house and into the bunker below because he knows no one knows about it to hide out. And then like you see the scene where like the son sees the Morse code, so he translates it and finds out his dad is there. And the ending is like, oh, he talks about how he's gonna get a good enough job, make a lot of money to buy the house, and then his dad will finally be able to come up and welcome them, and they'll be able to live a life like that. But until that day, he just has to work towards it, and that's kind of the ending. And so back to you guys. What were you guys' thoughts on this movie as a whole, as well as a lot of the twists and turns of it?
I'm gonna start off with saying, first time watching this movie, it hit me hard with like with the transitions between them going from like with their situation of like low income, living in their semi basement, and then moving towards like slowly one by one as the family moves towards the rich, the high life fancy home. And seeing that, it hit me hard as how some people live their lives daily, because this, as we see from this family, we only are given the context of what we see from that entire film. But in their universe, they constantly have to live in that semi-basement day after day, trying to just live off scraps with anything, and with willing to do anything, such as how they were like making pizza boxes, and then having their pay cut down to 10% from 10%, only because some of the boxes, or I think a whole quarter of the boxes, were incorrectly made. But like these are the livelihoods of some people that they basically have to survive on a day-to-day basis, comparing to the lives of the rich family who can live scot-freely, having a housemaid, having a driver to drive for them, and having the art teacher and such like that to help with their son when it could be the mother doing it, or the father doing the driving. But seeing the whole difference of these two families and their lives and such as that. And we also see as well as how greed definitely comes into a huge play here with them constantly wanting to integrate their lives into the rich family, only because of course they don't want to stay broke. They want to stay and have and live a good life. And of course greed takes over, and everything goes downhill from to the point where what was it? Until the what was it? Until they begin to try to hide their tracks when the previous housemaid that they kicked out wants to come back in, and then exposes they get their lives exposed by the previous housekeeper and such as that. But a lot of symbolism was definitely shown here, and I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed the movie, especially during the scene when the family's hiding beneath the table, and the parents are just there sleeping. Good, very good scene. Aside from that, I think that the symbolism hits a lot of people because not everyone is rich. I would like to assume a large majority of the audience could relate and fit into that sort of perspective of having to constantly live by scraps and crumbs. And so it was very deep and very powerful. And that was something I really enjoyed of the movie. The acting was also absolutely just beautiful and spot on, especially the driving scene when the father is driving the
mother.
He was driving the Benz, and then the rich lady, was in the back with her feet up and stuff like that, and then she had to cover her nose and then open up the windows while he had. And I think this was the point in time after the flooding, so
Yeah.
he obviously smelled bad, and she tried to, I guess, cover her nose and stuff like that, and then that only made him more angry. And you could see the expressions in his face that look just it's so deep. Like I'm assuming the in-universe character, it's a normal, I guess, expression to look angry, but to us, it's an expression we could confine with, because some people they can't always afford, constantly do laundry and stuff like that. And there's sometimes they get looks, sometimes they get comments from other people. You might hear someone like talk under the breath about your appearance or maybe your personality, but they don't know the constant battles some people be having because they don't have the luxury of life, to constantly get your laundry done by a housemaid or having someone to drive you anywhere, without a single worry in the world and such. And so I think that was the beauty of the movie. And as when opportunity strikes, people will try to do anything in their power, or at least to play it smart, to try to get what they want. But as seen in the movie, it doesn't always play out that way. Sometimes something might go bad, and then everything goes downhill. As the father stated about having plans, and in which if you were to have a plan, if you don't have a backup, or if everything goes downhill out of the plan, everything will eventually just not die off, but like go downhill again in a sense. And so I still have a lot of questions that are left unanswered as of like what happens afterwards in the movie, and as well as what was the original plan the father had in mind before I believe they went to I think it was during or before the flood that happened. So that's something I'm still thinking about. Unless it's already been answered, then
I think he was just lying.
It was a lie.
Yeah, I think he was lying to his son so his son wouldn't worry. As a father should do, I guess.
Okay. Interesting.
I interpreted the smell a little bit different. But he wasn't, to me, he wasn't offended by people calling him smelly. It was just him being upset that he, despite all of his efforts and all of his family's efforts, no matter what he did, he couldn't deny reality. Because once, they were getting, they basically hit the jackpot, right? So once you hit like that level mentally, you think, oh, I'm better now. My family is well off now. Everyone has jobs. We get paid a ridiculous amount of money for basically lying to this naive family. And I guess he started thinking that stuff, like he would be able to get out of the, I guess for lack of a better word, the projects. But that smell, or the, like constantly being reminded that he still has like the smell of the poor. He was like fighting his inner demons. And at the end, when the father is, next to the dead body, and he just kind of, he kind of snapped because of not just the smell, because of everything that, like his saving grace was destroyed in his eyes, like right in front of him. And he kind of snapped, and he kind of got tunnel vision. And the only like physical manifestation of that feeling was the father in front of him. So that's why he decided to attack it. It wasn't like anything personal against the father. To me, it was just like the physical manifestation of that feeling of not being able to escape poverty is what drove him to attack the father. That's how I saw it, anyways.
Interesting.
That's a really good interpretation. I really like that. Because, I mean, it is true. It's like, the entire time, it's like, you kind of see that as like, you see them eating at these different places and talking about how, oh, well, now we have the money to do this and this. And it's just like, despite all that, I think as like how our friend put it, there's kind of levels to this. And, they were in a level still within the lower income community, despite making all that money, Because at the end of the day, even though they were making all this money from that family, where were they still? In the slums, and, they were constantly being reminded that despite all this money and despite these higher up type jobs that they had, they were still being reminded that, again, like how Gio was saying, they can't wash away that smell. I mean, the son of the rich family literally smells the mom and the dad and goes, oh, they smell the same. And then he was like, oh, the daughter smells like that too. It's like, no matter what they do, they still have that smell to them, and they're trying to think, oh, is it the soap we're using? Is it the laundry detergent? And the dad even says it himself. No, it's the fact that we're still here in this small little apartment. That's the smell that they're talking about. And that's kind of what I love the most about this movie, is that there was so many events of like foreshadowing of what was to come throughout the movie. Like from the very beginning, there was already foreshadowing of a lot of the themes, a lot of the topics, and the overall message we were going to hear and see throughout this movie. And that's what I really enjoyed. Especially because I think the thing that I love the most is that like it's very difficult to give straight up answers to a lot of questions. Like when it comes to the ending scene, it's like, did he really end up buying the house and, they were able to live out their lives? Or as our friend pointed out, no, I don't think that ending is true. It's more like just a dream of his, because realistically, you know how much money you'd have to make to get that house. And then also it's like, he wouldn't even be able to get to that point with his criminal record now of all the stuff that got exposed from that situation. And then the biggest question overall that I enjoyed coming out of the movie that, it's hard to give a straight up answer is who's truly the parasite in the movie? Do you side with the rich family and just say that, that they were just kind of blissfully ignorant to what was going around them? Do you side with the poor family, that they were right to feed off the rich the way they did? It's kind of difficult to give a straight up answer because there's logic to both sides of the argument, and so it's kind of difficult to answer of who truly was the parasite in this movie, because technically you want to say the poor family because they were the ones feeding off of the rich, but at the same time, as I brought up to our friends, how much did the rich family's lives sort of improve because of them? Like, the dad really pushed the rich dad to really think about, does he love his wife or not? Because he kept asking, oh, but you love your wife, right? And it's like, he says yes, but at the same time he was always complaining. It's like it really pushed him to think and be a better dad for his family. What do you guys think?
You bring up an interesting point of the hope of who really is the parasite, because technically all three of them are parasites in their own way. Like the rich family is a parasite towards society because of capitalism or whatever, and then there's the Kim family, like the main family that we're focused on, is a parasite to the rich family. And then the old maid and her husband were already parasites to the rich family. So it's interesting to see how, when I wonder if this was definitely intentional. Like he probably saw, because I don't think when two parasites are in the same like in the same host body, I'm pretty sure. I mean, logically thinking, those two parasites would try to get rid of each other, and we saw that in the movie, because the thing that really like stuff started going bad for the Kim family is when the mother, instead of trying to work something out with the maid, instantly got greedy and said, no, all of it is ours now, you have to go. And then that's when the whole issue with the house maid started happening, at least to me. And it has to be like that in nature, right? Because parasites wouldn't want to share the same host. They would want everything for themselves, and we've seen that because, like, in any sort of environment, when there's like an invasive species, they kind of like take over everything and aren't willing to share.
Yeah.
So I guess like that's like a nice, neat little, I guess, like subtle detail that was just portrayed in the story. And
yeah, and I think
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I think the best sort of like main message also was just how the dad was like, like the main message to kind of take away for like see, the crazy part is they can apply to everyone. It's not just rich or poor people that can, like, everyone could take this advice of like how obviously, yes, you want to have like something in mind for what you want to do in the future, like if you're a kid, what you want to do as a career, as an adult, what investments you want to make to secure, the financial status of you and your family. But like the thing I just loved the most was how he was just like, when his son kept telling him, especially after the plan went off the rails, he was like, Dad, what's our plan? What are we doing from here? And he just tells him, there was essentially no plan. There's no point in having a plan when it can change at any moment, when it can go wild at any moment and, just completely stray from what you originally thought, much like what happened in the movie. Final ratings, guys. I know we didn't save ourselves a lot of time to talk, but, that's something we got to improve on. But final ratings?
I'd give it like a 9.5.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Nice. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10 as well, like Gio. And with that being said, we want to thank...
Before we end, there's one thing I wanted to mention. The editing, how the video was edited, was literally perfect, because in the beginning, it was kind of like a checklist of everything going according to plan, but then once everything hit the fan, it was all over the place. And that's what I really liked that about the movie. Anyways.
Well, with that being said, we want to thank you all for joining us for another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. As always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we'll catch y'all in the next episode.